We started it to give ourselves and other developers out there hope and another option when they, maybe saw no light at the end of the tunnel.
They made it clear that they were going to employ a very strict console-like curation strategy for Quest. What it's resulted in is a very high-quality store where most apps that you download can be trusted to be of high quality, free of bugs. The flip side of that is it's made it extraordinarily hard for developers to get feedback on early projects that aren't necessarily ready to make it through that entire Facebook approval process. When did you first start putting together the idea that you needed to kind of have this alternative route?
Quest launched in May, and it was around March that they announced the strict curation process. And at the time, they released some example pitch documents, and within a couple of days, we had our pitch in. So we were probably within one of the first batches of developers that got declined. So we kind of started to realize what fairly quickly, when we noticed a lot of other developers were also getting declined as well, we started to realize what kind of a landscape that we had. And rather than be disappointed that we were declined, it was pretty obvious that there was a gap there. There's a huge amount to be said for a high quality AAA sort of caliber, even within our little scope, of games on the main store. And this is absolutely essential for new users to be able to get the best possible experience from VR. And I honestly think Facebook and Oculus have done a fantastic job with their marketing campaign around the Quest. But as you said, then there's a lot of people who are kind of left out in the cold. And these people arguably are the indie developers who've propped the industry up until now. So SideQuest was just, it was a way for us initially to be able to distribute our own app. And, we were working with a closed community of developers at the time, and very quickly it became apparent that this could be useful to a lot of people.
How do you have both of those sort of positions in your head at one time? Is it difficult to sort of get rejected, but also understand the reasons why?
When we were first rejected, it was extremely difficult. And it gave me a really good understanding of the mindset that a lot of these other developers are in. And the sort of choices that they're faced with. So I can really understand and appreciate that. And I think that coming from that mindset is really what's given us, the ability to be able to deliver SideQuest in a way that has as much possible benefit to the users and to the developers that we can, is because we've been in that seat. We've been there. We've been building a game ourselves. And we understand that it is a risky process, and it takes a lot of time before you can potentially see a return. And with that kind of long-term investment, it can be difficult, very difficult to be able to be told that maybe there's no way for you to be able to meet the latest and greatest flagship device and the market and the community that kind of comes with that. We have about a third of Quest users on SideQuest. So wow. 6 months ago, we were faced with a choice as to whether or not we're going to, stop developing our application or pursue alternative routes. And SideQuest basically became the alternative route. So we're really excited. Our game was originally called The Expanse at that point. That was more of a project name than anything else. It was never intended to be finally called that. But we were excited to bring it in line with the SideQuest branding. So we're calling it SideQuest Legends. And we're very excited about a beta that we'll be releasing very soon, and working towards coming out of beta in the next couple of months and being able to provide a really cool platform for people to hang out and play games.
We're actually going to be debuting some gameplay footage showing a new game that should be available on SideQuest. And this will be a paid product. Do you have many paid products via SideQuest? How does that work?
We have a small number of paid options on SideQuest, and they actually cover a fairly diverse number of workflows in terms of whether it's virtual desktop and it's using an entitlement check against the existing app that's installed from the store, or there's other applications that use in-app purchases, or probably one of the more popular routes is leveraging itch.io, an existing indie game platform. So yes, this new game that's coming out, is going to go down that route. They're going to use itch.io, and this is going to be a paid game. This is a game that was extremely popular on PlayStation VR and also on Steam. But for whatever reason, this one didn't make it through the curation process. And now they're looking at releasing on SideQuest. So we're absolutely thrilled to have these guys. I met them myself in person at OC6. Absolutely down to earth, salt of the earth kind of guys. And what they've built is really quite an amazing and fun game. It's that sort of game where they take a specific mechanic and they completely hero it so that it just works so well. It's like games like Super Hot or like T for God, where there's a very specific mechanic about it that they really, really hero quite well. And one thing I quite enjoy about it is that even though it maybe is intense, it doesn't feel as intense, and it's more accessible to a wider audience. I think for that reason, and I think the reason is mainly just because it's so polished.
You think you've got 1/3 of Quest users using SideQuest.
Yes.
What can you say about those numbers, more specifically? How
Sure.
do you make that guess, and what can you say about the popularity of SideQuest?
There's no obviously public numbers around how many quests have been sold, but based on what we believe is the case, we think that there's maybe between 600,000 to 900,000 quests sold so far. And on SideQuest, we have about 210,000 users. So yeah, it could be anywhere from sort of 24 to over 30% of the user base of the Quest are on SideQuest. So
significant user base to people who are sideloading their content.
I think it really shows that sideloading has kind of evolved to a state beyond something that just a developer uses. I think it's the new experimental tab.
When Facebook announced the early rollout of the hand tracking feature, and then devs immediately started turning to SideQuest to push out very small experimental projects that use the hand tracking. And for lots of people out there, I mean, can you say how many people started downloading hand tracking demos over the holidays?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the longer running resident apps, like for instance, Sunshard, which was actually accepted onto the official Quest store after they developed on SideQuest. But they released a hand tracking demo where you could play God mode. It ended up with 10,000 downloads within a couple of days. It was starting to creep up on Sunshard itself in terms of how much downloads. But exactly as you say, the hand tracking is a really attractive new feature that people want to play with and they want to get some feedback on. And it's really nice to see. I think we maybe have 11 or 12 different apps now leveraging the hand tracking. And I'm really looking forward to T for God. Word on the street is that that's going to introduce hand tracking pretty soon. So that's majorly exciting. I'm excited to see hand tracking applied to an actual game as an addition rather than just a hand tracking demo.
Facebook has they warn people that side loading could put your device at risk in some of their language. Can you explain why they would give that warning and whether there's anything users can do at home to make sure that their device stays secure even though they're sideloading content?
Sideloading really opens up a ton of opportunity, and you can find any app online anywhere and install it onto your device. So the same kind of approach applies to how we deal with software that we use anywhere. You should really only use software from trusted sources, and make sure that you stay well clear of any of the pirated content, because a lot of that often contains malicious side objectives.
I've got the URL here. It's for anyone that hasn't tried SideQuest. There's a short URL. It's sdq.st/download.
That's correct.
That should get you started on SideQuest. One thing that's part of the process that's kind of a hoop to jump through is you have to go to Oculus website and tell them you're a developer and more or less sign up as a developer and then activate the developer-only feature within the Oculus app on your phone. And then you put the headset on for a second, tell it to connect to a PC, and then assuming you've got the SideQuest app installed, you should be able to now sideload apps. Can you talk to me about what some of the most popular apps have been and what sort of scale of distribution they've been able to achieve via SideQuest?
It was only very recently, actually, a lot of our apps have started to hit milestone numbers, shall we say, specific large double numbers or significant numbers anyway. But working down through the most popular ones, Crisis Brigade was something I was talking about quite a lot lately. You take on the role of somebody within an elite SWAT team, and you've got to try and eliminate various enemies in a bank sort of a surrounding, which is fantastic, really polished and works quite well. And up until very recently, it was the most highly rated and most downloaded app on our platform. And the significant milestone that it hit recently was 50,000 downloads, and only counted as one download per user. So it doesn't include things like updates or any reinstalling. So those numbers are fantastic, and it really shows that this game obviously has quite a lot in terms of engagement and interest and popularity. So apart from Crisis Brigade, we've got titles like T for God I mentioned before. We've got Physics Playground. We've got Deism. It's a strategy game where you can pretend to be God, which is fantastic.
You've got Pavlov too, right?
We've got Pavlov. So Pavlov is kind of blowing everything else out of the water. I think Pavlov is probably one of the finest examples of what's possible on Quest at the minute. So in terms of gameplay and just being able to enjoy most of the essential features that you've got on the desktop Pavlov, but then I don't hear as many people talking about this, but the aesthetics, the graphical quality of Pavlov is actually quite phenomenal. So it's really an amazing game. I can't wait to see it on the store. Dave has worked so hard on it, and you can really tell. And so far already, within 7 days, it became the highest rated app on SideQuest, and it continues to get more and more highly positive reviews and more and more downloads. So I can say that pretty confidently within a couple of weeks, I think it's going to be the highest downloaded app on SideQuest as well. So Dave, you've done a fantastic job on that, and I really I think it's amazing. I think it's really, really well done.
Let's show the new app. I think we've talked about what SideQuest is. I'm sure a lot of people out there are curious about what the new app is. Let's show the gameplay from the new app.
Level start.
From Electric Hat Games, it's $14.99. How can people get that and buy it and get to playing?
Like any of the other games that you may have played on SideQuest that are paid that involve itch.io, you can head straight to the SideQuest page, and there's a Buy on Itch button at the very top. From there, it will take you to the Itch page where you can make the purchase. And then you simply click onto the download button, and it will install the game for you. It's as simple as that.
I'm actually very prone to simulator sickness. I get sim sickness very easily, and I played it for about half an hour and felt no sickness, despite that being an incredibly uh, active game.
Yes.
That you're really moving yourself around in virtual space quite a bit, reaching up for those handholds. Uh, yeah, now that we know that we've made the big announcement, To the Top
Mm.
is available on SideQuest as soon as people watch this, and tell me about sort of what it means to have that kind of game.
It's fantastic. I mean, I think it's going to be really great for the users of SideQuest to be able to have access to this fantastic game. It's essentially going to be up there with any of the best games available on the Quest. So we're really excited about it. But mostly, we're really excited for the guys that have built it, for Daniel and for Richard. Those guys have done some amazing work at getting that game to where it is and getting it so polished. And it's like you say, there is so much content flying past you so fast, but it is just buttery smooth. And I think that's really essential to being able to use this kind of a game without feeling motion sickness. Normally, my go-to is that I will use games like that when I'm seated so that I don't get too dizzy and too wavy, but I can integrate this into my usual morning Beat Saber workout without having to sit down or grab a chair, which is just fantastic. Both me and my wife, we've been enjoying it now for the last couple of mornings. And yeah, I think it's going to become a permanent part of our routine.
I don't know if it's fair to call it a gray area in where you operate, but I explained it earlier in our interview where you have to tell Facebook that you're a developer, and they really could change how they manage their system at any time. And so
Yes.
I guess what's the risk of shutdown, or what is the end goal?
I mean, in terms of how potentially we could be shut down or made redundant down the line, it's something that's always kind of on my mind. But what we've done to sort of mitigate this is that we've proactively pursued a positive relationship with Oculus. So I've spoken to Chris Pruitt several times, and I think that we have a great relationship, and we have a relationship whereby we can share what plans we've got. And Chris has given me an early heads up of changes to the content policy, allowing me to act accordingly. And I've also informed him of new updates and new features that we're planning to roll out into SideQuest. So as it stands at the minute, I really, really enjoy that relationship. And rather than it being a scenario where we never talk and it's a kind of a cat and mouse position where they try to make they try to posture towards making some kind of changes to prevent us, and then we try to work around those. I think that we have our place here in the ecosystem, and that we serve a certain purpose, and that purpose is really, really valid right now. And I'm excited to see where SideQuest could go in the future. There are obviously quite a lot of different things that could happen. In terms of where we're going down the line, I think we'd like to just keep trucking on as we are, because I think there's one important thing is when you do something right and people like it, you probably shouldn't change it too much. So we want to stay in this position as we are. We want to keep the service free for users and free for developers. So we don't take any cut on any sales in terms of any of the paid apps on SideQuest, and we won't ever do that because we'd like to maximize what developers could potentially earn. But yeah, so and in terms of the ad revenue that we've recently added, it's fantastic. It's certainly paying for the bills. It's allowed me to leave my full-time job and to work full-time on SideQuest. So I'm excited to be able to continue to work on that, to continue to deliver features, and to be able to continue to work with Oculus to be able to give ultimately the best and easiest experience that we can to the users. One thing that we do talk to Oculus about, or I've been working on actually for several weeks now, is trying to introduce features that could help to protect users who use SideQuest. So we've been working on something for a number of weeks. It's called Safe Side. We like to throw side into our naming conventions every time we can. It's a crowdsourced initiative, and it allows users who come across malicious content and malicious apps, what they can do is submit them to us. We scan them within their browser, and we send unique identifiers to our server so we can store these. And what we plan to do then is to add some checks and balances into the SideQuest desktop app, so that if it detects one of these malicious apps, it will pop up and warn the user before the app ever makes it to their headset. So that's one real benefit of having SideQuest being a standalone application running on their computer, is that we can actually help to protect the users before they ever violate the content policies. So we're really excited to be able to roll out these features. We're really excited to be able to help protect and keep users safe and to help them sideload content without any worries.